Okay, so we've got Jack 10 suited here. It's in open. Back to the 2.14 Doobie.
Yeah.
See a cool, interesting board. Big blind checks. Doobie, as you didn't take over last time, let's go with you here.
This is obviously a good flop for us for our actual hand. I think if he has no club in his hand, he's not going to be feeling that comfortable about calling like all of his non-club hands. He's not going to be that comfortable like floating or like if he's got a small piece of it. I think should be leaning towards c-betting here for value and protection. There's tons of hands that can catch up. If he has got one club, we want to charge him. In terms of sizing, I don't know. I think, I just sort of make my sort of standard c-bet, which is something like third pot or 30%, something like that.
Okay. How do you feel when you get check raised?
Yeah, that's obviously one downside to c-betting. I think we just call one and reevaluate.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said there, dude. That's how I'd play this personally.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think this is a something to consider in terms of when we face the check raise here, what hands we're going to continue with. And actually, we obviously have overpairs with a club. We have ace king and ace queen, and ace jack with clubs. But we also have a lot of other hands that probably just have to fold, or it was put into a very tough spot on some turns and rivers. Jack, what do you think in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, this board you could for sure bet like 100%. Your early position versus big blind, and he just has a lot of hands that cannot continue at all here. Stuff like 5, 6, 7 of hearts. Any two cards that don't have a club in them, basically, or a pair, are in a really tricky situation here. So I'd for sure be betting this flop, probably 100% in this spot. And with Jack 10, it's like if you get check raised, it sucks, but I don't expect him to follow through much on a blank turn, so I can be pretty confident about folding on basically any turn that they choose to bet, other than a 10, I guess. But for sure, you can't fold to a check raise here with this hand. It's just too far. It's just too good, you're going to bet this flop with king, queen of hearts and then have to fold, you can't bet fold this time.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also people check raise monotone boards reasonably high frequency and then don't follow through on turns at anywhere near high enough frequency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I check here, Gaz?
Yeah, you check back.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like that.
Okay, so now he checks again on the turn. Obviously, he has more hands now that Jack was talking about that can continue. Like more ace-x or one pair type hands that can continue here. So what are your thoughts? Let's go to VanH3lzing. If you can hear me.
Hang on a second, mate.
Okay, let's go to FUGLIEE whilst VanH3lzing sorts out whether he's working
a little bit different. So I would definitely be c-betting as we said on the board here, on the flop here. Now,
We lost Sarah. This is unreal.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me?
Pretty bad. Yeah, we can hear you, Halsey.
Okay, yeah. So I agree with everything Doobie said on the flop. I would definitely c-bet for value and protection. Obviously, it sucks if he check raises, but as Jack said, I don't think we can fold immediately. Our hand's too strong. We're gonna have loads of other bet folds, like king queen, ace jack.
But what about on the turn now when it's gone?
So he's checked again, has he? I think it's probably a good spot to bet again. Again, like you're not loving it. Obviously, if a club rolls off in the river, you can probably charge some club draws as well.
I just think we bet probably for the same reasons we want to bet on the flop.
Yeah.
And the ace favours our range significantly. And we just want to charge any draws that you might have, any one club hands you might have. and we're just going to have the best hand so often. I definitely think we have to bet.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to check actually this this board. I think this turn. I think he's going to lead some aces here, and I'm just not sure what value we're getting from betting the turn, other than perhaps denying like a 5-4 with a with a 4 of clubs or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any broadways like king, queen, king 9, any hands with 1 club in, we rep an ace like pretty well. Especially as played, we actually check the flop. So I feel like we really rep this turn when we bet it.
Yeah.
You would expect him to bet those, though, wouldn't you? The broadways with 1 club.
Say again.
Wouldn't you expect him to bet the turn with a broadway with 1 club?
Not necessarily. I mean, he can have like king high and a club, which is reasonable check by him. I think the merit to betting the turn is, I mean, there's clearly enough value to bet the turn once he checks. I mean, as I don't know who it was said that he should be leading a lot of ace X here, which is true. So once he checks you again, like your hand is probably a pretty big equity favorite still. And he's just going to have a load of hands like 7s with a club, 6s and 6s down, 8, 9, 10, 9. Any pair that you beat basically can't really bet into you when the ace comes. So, and you still don't mind him check folding, whatever 6, 7 of hearts, right? Which still has outs against you.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem here is like he might check raise here with like some random hand because he expects you to bluff this card basically always. But I mean, I think that's a pretty minor concern, and I would just be betting here for a small sizing.
We've got Tough Nuts in the chat who said on the flop, should we go for a bigger sizing to sort of give more protection? What sizing would you make it here, Jack?
No, I don't think that makes sense. I mean, you get so much protection from a small bet that I think you're just burning chips by betting bigger.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about like this hand, you're like, you love it if he folds ace jack of hearts, right? Which he for sure will. And if you can make ace jack of hearts fold for like a small sizing, ace jack's probably bad. It's ace queen of hearts, right? Could be sure check fold for a 3rd pot of this flop, and should. Or king queen or whatever. Like there's 6 outs against you, which is just never going to give you any action by when you check back. It's never going to bluff into you. So getting that kind of, I mean, that's really good protection you're getting for a very cheap price. You really don't need to size up anymore. I mean, to make them fold what, right? Like 9-7. I don't really think it's like that big of a difference.
Okay, good stuff.
And I think it's something when I was like first like learning the game, like say you've got aces here with no club on the flop, and you get scared and you want to bet big to protect your hand. Like you think, if a club comes on the turn, but in reality, it's like 4-1 shot or something to come on.
I would say that's actually a hand that does make sense to bet big with, only because there's so much more value in it.
Right. Yeah.
When you and also like sort of because you don't need as much protection from the overcards.
Right.
Like with aces, like you could foreseeably like bet like 80% on this flop because they can't really fold a 10, and there's some 1 club hands that they have to now check fold even on the flop. So you sort of like manipulate their range in a way that really gives you that hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
No, I think actually thinking about it, when we've got overcards here, I don't know if I'm speaking for this, but I would probably tend to size up because you just want to get manipulate the pot size so you can get the chips in. So it makes it easier to get the chips in.
Overcards or overpairs?
Overpairs, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overpair is like the one class of hand that makes a lot of sense to bet big here. But you have to be careful doing that you're not like, you don't just have...
in our hand,
Yeah, exactly. You don't just have one type of hand that you do that with. Although, if the player pool is like, playing in such a way that works for that hand and nothing else, then go for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we do see a small bet. I think there are some questions coming through on the chat, but I think we've already answered them. So if you feel like we haven't, then just fire away again. But Spike asked what the value is in betting here, and I think we've already covered that the hands that we can still get value from. Okay, so he checks to us on the river. Doobie, what would you like to see yourself do now?
I have no idea what happens. I feel like almost like to see in value bet here, but I'm guessing in game I likely check back. Don't know if it's too thin. I feel like still feel fair. The thing is, do we get paid enough? Like, is he just going to have missed draws, and is he capable of check raise bluffing? I don't know. I know probably the player pool probably isn't in general. If I was playing like a sicko here, I would just be checking back. If I was playing Jack, I would be checking back. But
did you say sicko?
Someone who's capable of the big check raise river. So
someone who just spewy shit.
I don't know if it's a bit too thin. So
I'm not sure what sort of hands we're targeting to get called by though.
If you think about what we said on the turn, the hands we get value from, which is like the 10-9, the pairs with a club, like very few of those hands are going to call again on the river. So I can't see there's too much merit or value in betting the river. Does anyone disagree?
Yeah.
I think that you made a very good point, which is that you have to check back against good players here for sure. Like if your opponent, your opponent's range is pretty heavily like under pair plus club heavy, and those hands make really fantastic check raises on this river. And in fact, it's like the first hand that you learn how to check raise bluff the river with, right? It's like sevens with a club here. And someone who doesn't even have balls at all can still find that check raise on this river because it's so obvious, Like you can't check call, you've got the perfect blockers, like you had to check call the turn, so you have to get to this point, right? So it's like everything's pointed to like the check raise now. So even a mid-level player can still find the check raise bluff here with like sevens with a club.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I was playing the Sunday Million, I would be inclined to bet here again, just against your average Sunday Million player, and especially a half price Sunday Million. Like they're just going to check call here with 9s, 8-9, 10-9, and they've taken so many better hands than yours out of their range by check calling the turn. If they have two pair on the turn, they just don't have two pair by this point, unless it's like 10-6 or ace-6. Or 8-6. So like you're basically worried about a very weak ace check calling you or a better 10 check calling you. But I think if you bet small enough, you can just get like called always by like an 8+. And I think that's probably enough value to go for a small bet here.
Very good. Ben, what do you think is the best hand you could land on this river with, given the action?
Was that
Benny? Yeah, it was. He said,
What
"What was
did
the
he
best
say?
hand you land?" He said, "What was the best hand you land on this river?"
we
Given
do.
the action, yeah, the way that you played
The
it.
best hand. Let me think. Do we ever? Like we somehow flop the flush. Do we ever check it? I think we're shallow enough.
Maybe
I
ace
think
8
that's
or something like
possible.
Yeah, yeah, ace
Yeah,
8,
that
ace
makes
3.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could for sure end up with the nut flush here. Check back the flop with the nut flush makes sense.
Yeah.
To some degree. I mean, I never would check that back, but I mean, you could conceivably have it.
Cool. All right, we do check. Oh, we should have done the.
Yeah, okay.
Taken.
Well,
It's my fault.
that's exactly the kind of hand I would have bet on him having as well.
Yeah.
So we didn't
And that's
go
exactly that's exactly the hand you should be check raising as well, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is like maybe you made a really good check back against a guy that was like just so ready to check raise the river, but also maybe you missed value.
Yeah,
We'll never know.
Do you think
never know.
if Doobie had bet on this river for like,
I think
you go for a
just
small
call,
sizing, right? So what sizing would you expect the big blind to go on the river? If Doobie bet say 3 or 4 big blinds on this river,
All in probably.
yeah, do you think so? I mean, it's the one move that's going to put the most pressure on. Anything smaller seems.
Yeah, I think
too
it also
small.
makes more sense to bet like 3 big blinds on this river than 4.
Okay.
So I know it's a small difference, but like 4, the shove doesn't seem so outrageous. But against a 3 big blind bet, shoving for 26 total, just like it's gonna feel a little bit spewy by him if he's got a bluff. So I think you're gonna take his bluff frequency down a bit with that sizing.
And that
that's an
size, you get
interesting
a couple more crying calls from
Right.
the 8-9, 8-7.
Yeah, maybe even go as small as like 2.
I just missed the sizing there, Jack. As small as what, 2.5? Did you say?
2.5, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I mean, they know you're never bluffing, but they still call, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the 2.29.
Why are we back to this? Yeah, I'm not happy
I mean,
with that.
you know, there's something to be said for raising bigger from these positions and raising smaller from earlier and middle. But I don't know if you were consciously thinking about that at the time.
So you have 2 opening sizes in there, 2.1 and 2.3.
2.14 and
Pretty
2.29.
much. I don't. Yeah, I did at the time anyway. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago, but.
I mean, in my opinion, those are the same size. But
Okay.
Seems like you're just alternating them just for
Yeah.
fun.
Just for jokes, yeah.
Okay. So we see a big blind 3-bet here. I don't think there's much to talk about here, apart from maybe looking at what your jamming range is, given that we've talked about this before as a group, that big blind 3-bets
Yeah.
tend to be pretty strong
That's
here.
really what I'm interested in, seeing what Jack thinks about big blind 3-bets in general in these sort of spots.
it's the worst, man. You gotta get the hell out of there. Big blind 3-bets is like the worst thing. Like when someone 3-bets the big blind and it's not me, like I'm basically assuming they have like kings plus.
Love it.
So it was really interesting. Last time we did this with Pads, he was saying that I think some of us had developed a big blind 3-betting strategy off of about 30 big blinds, but he was saying that there wasn't too much point in doing that, and he would just kind of explicitly just call all of those hands that we were suggesting, like a 6-5 suited or a 7-8 off, 6-5 off, or if you're going to do it, do more like a king 4 off or something with blocker value, or maybe an ace 4.
Pads was saying he would do king 4 off.
I think that's what
This-
he was saying.
He
yeah.
said some of the offsuit wheel aces, which is
That's pretty funny.
What?
That's that's pretty much exactly what the conclusion me and Phil came to
wow.
a while ago. I'm kind of really tilted that's now.
I remember seeing Jack Salter doing it in a WSOP 5K that I watched the stream to, like 2 hands in a row with king 5 off, and one was versus under the gun, and they both folded both times. But is there merit to doing it like with the king X and 5X over the ace X? Do you think?
Only that king 5 off is like way worse as a call than ace 5 off.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously ace 5 off is a far better 3-bet, but it's like, what do you do when you get dealt the king 5 off? Then I'd rather if the profitability of 3-betting is close, and the profitability of flatting is not. We know it's not close, right? Like the king 5 performs far worse as a flat. Than ace 5. But I think because people fold so much to the 3-bet, and they play sort of similar in a shallower stack situation posed, that I think king 5 off is my preferred to ace 5 off.
Right.
Cool.
What about Jack 4 off, Jack?
I mean, yeah, that's it's a similar sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you can take it a bit too far sometimes.
That's what VanH3lzing likes to do, push the limits. So in this situation, then I think we're all ripping ace king here. What's the worst hand that you rip?
Yeah.
I think I'd be feeling quite uncomfortable with something like ace queen,
Yeah, it sounds so nitty, but I know what you mean. Like not in game, not versus this guy. Me and this guy had a bit of history, and he was definitely on the aggro side. So I'd be getting ace queen in versus this guy, but versus someone that was playing sort of like pretty ABC. Like it's not the greatest spot, is it? I don't know. It sounds really nitty to say that.
Yeah, I mean, like you do block aces and queens, obviously, but as we've discussed, like they're generally quite nutted in these spots.
Do we think that's the case even when it's cutoff versus big blind? Obviously, if it was like early position versus
Not
big
so
blind
much,
here,
yeah.
like we'd
If we were
seriously
in the
think
low
they're
jack
nutted.
here and we had ace queen and the big blind 3-bets, I'd hating it. If it's just a straightforward player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even cutoff, I'm like throwing up with ace queen. I mean, I think I just fold ace queen in this spot, honestly.
Wow.
Interesting.
Unless as you say, like, you have a history with the guy, right?
Yeah, a little bit. This is the one guy at the table I think we had. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, it's fine. Like, I'm not folding, but against like some random guy, like if I open ace queen off here and get 3-bet, it's just like you're just in such a bad situation to do anything but fold. I think it's. I think just fold and don't tell anyone about it. It's the best.
Yeah, and if you heard
I think
Jack
his
say
sizing,
that,
by the way, is less likely to be like aces and kings, just because he's gone like on the slightly larger side. Yeah,
it also means that he's probably makes him seem like maybe a bit of a better player. So yeah, I'm definitely much happier seeing 8.5 here than like 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sizing is good. That kind of forces you to jam or fold. We're not thrilled to flat in this spot, even though we talked about this in the last review we did, but that was versus the small blind, who is going to flat fewer hands and therefore have maybe a more linear 3-bet range. So we end up being able to flat some hands versus the 3-bet. But here, very, very polarized 3-betting range and most likely to be weighted towards strong hands. So I guess we, what does everyone agree with that, or is there some pushback?
From what we can hear, mate, much polarized range, but he's less likely to, the average Joe is not going to have that many of the lower part of the polarized range.
Yeah.
So get that. What's the pair that you jam here, jacks or tens?
Yeah, that's it.
You asking me?
About right.
Yeah, Jack Sinclair. Yeah.
Jacks and tens. I mean, I'm kind of inclined to flat these hands now. The reason being, like, the range you get in against here is like queens plus and ace king. Realistic. And against that range, like when you have a pair, you kind of want to see a safe flop and then go with it, as opposed, so that if you've got pocket jacks, you call and it comes ace king 4 or whatever. Now you can save some money. If it comes 3 bricks, then you get it in slightly better against his overall range.
Yeah.
And if it, like, let's say he has queens and you have jacks and it comes ace king X, then you also save money that way. When you have ace king, you for sure shouldn't flat here because you do the reverse, right? Like when you hit the board, you get less value.
Yeah.
And when you miss the board, like imagine he 3-bets, you call, the board is bricks, and then you find a fold somehow on the flop or turn, but the river was an ace. Like you've just lost his whole stack. So, you were going to get in with reasonable equity at pre-flop.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes way more sense to get ace king in here. This only applies when you have no fold equity, obviously, right? Like if you have jacks here and he might fold, then you should for sure jam. It's like, not even close. But when you don't have fold equity and you're going against a strong range, it makes sense to just see a flop first, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I hope you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be 3-bet inducing from the big blind with jacks plus ace king and jamming like ace queen off, ace maybe 10s and 9s. Is anyone else doing the similar thing in that spot?
Yeah, I like that.
I think you should for sure jam jacks here for 30 big blinds.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you get it in against a better range when you 3-bet call off.
Okay.
The jacks, so I would just be shoving here. Like it's kind of hard for your opponent to get it in against you. Like now, when you just 3-bet here and your opponent has 8s or 9s, it's like super ugly situation for them. Whereas if you shove 30 bigs, it's like pretty hard for them to fold 8s or 9s.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd for sure be shoving jacks in this spot, and definitely not 3-bet inducing.
Mm-hmm.
Bang bang.
Okay.
Yep,
Nice.
Yeah.
And by the way, we missed another opportunity to bet on his hand. So Guys, keep up this wonderful work so that we.
Okay.
That's
Too money for Jack.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
obviously would have guessed queens as well because you have an ace and a king and his
Yeah.
queens plus.
Yeah, and he can't have aces and kings when we've got an ace and a king in our hand. That's right.
Okay.
I was just trying to
Healthy.
save you guys money actually, but okay. So
Yeah, that's true.
hijack open, big blind defense. These are like your bread and butter spots that you have to get right. Jack, are you doing a lot of work in this sort of late position versus big blind sort of dynamic?
Yeah, I mean it's like kind of all I looked at for a long period of time.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a board where the big blind should be leading quite a lot. In reality, nobody really does lead here, which is kind of bad for you when they check to you and you have nothing. It means they have a lot more lot less capped range now. I just would not be c-betting this board at a very high frequency at all against the big blind. I mean, they just have way more pairs than you, way more two pairs, way more straights. So for sure, I'd be checking back, especially with king high, and just no potential at all, and just checking back and basically giving up, unless I get a really good turn card.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, that's what Doobie did.
Well done, Doobs.
Okay.
Going okay so far.
You have a pretty easy fold here.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. I'm sweating every action. No clue.
I mean, honestly, if you raised there, I would have loved it. I mean, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't have said that. I would have given you serious props for that move. But...
Okay. Raise and a call. Okay, so really interesting, given that we had a similar spot earlier on, but their positions are now reversed. Do see a small bet. Ninja, what do you want to see yourself doing here?
Just a very straightforward check call, and let's see a turn dealer.
Yeah, I don't think
there's any value in raising, and certainly far too strong to fold.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to check again, and he checks the turn. So, really interesting. We get to this river, the 6 of diamonds. Jack's on another walk around his house. Looks like MTV Cribs.
Apologies, guys. I had to get a power cable.
Okay. FUGLIEE, what would you like to see on this river? Are we going to be betting? Or are we going to be checking?
No, I feel like it's just a quite simple check call now. I don't see any. The only reason that we could lead is maybe to put a blocker bet in there. But with the chance of being check raised, I'm fine with just check call here.
What sort of hands is he going to be raising there on the river with this line, though?
Let's see.
I think he's going to not have many sixes opening from that position.
No.
I think you can go for some value here versus sevens.
He's never got
fives.
a house in a million years.
Yeah, maybe ace high, maybe even calls here.
He's never got flush.
He's never got a flush, yeah.
Particularly versus this villain who's on the aggro side, I feel like, to me, it's just got to be a check call and just hope he bluffs with just clubs that he decided to check on the turn.
I think it's. But it's funny how we did. Yeah, we all sort of differ. Halsey, sorry, what was your conclusion? Were you going to check?
I would probably bet here, and sometimes I guess you value turn yourself against tens. You do block 9, so tens is probably the only concern.
And Jack X. You can have a lot of Jack X as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but I feel like population probably bet Jack X here on the turn. They could get a lot of value from your clubs and 8s and 6s and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's got a Jack very often at all. So I think the hand you're probably losing to is tens. So you can probably get some value against worse pairs and ace highs.
Yeah.
But of course, there's merits to check call as well.
Yeah, I'm betting here because I just think we've got the best hand. Just too much of the time.
I just don't know what we get paid by though. I feel like we're more likely to make chips from him bluffing than him having a worse pair and calling. But I don't know.
Given his line, he very rarely has a strong hand here, but he could definitely be going for some value on the river. With a hand that we put in a really tough spot if we check raise this river. What do you guys think about rather than check calling going for a check raise on this river as a bluff?
I don't like check raise without a club in our hand. Yeah, we have a load more sixes than he. Realistically, what are we check raising with here? It's got to be like a very strong flush or a boat. And yeah, sure, we can have 8-8 and 6-8, and maybe Jack 6, Jack 6-2 suited. But yeah, I don't think this is the hand to check raise. It's a bluff.
When you first said that, I thought that's overly fancy. But then I almost, if you know the guy's really aggro and he can't really have much, like betting like 2 big blinds to induce a raise to then 3-bet is like it's fancy play syndrome though. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're going to induce a bluff, you would just call that bluff rather than 3-bet.
True. Yeah. Sorry. Actually. Yeah.
But like, so I think, yeah, going back to what Ninja said about having a club in your hand, I think it's very unlikely he checks this turn with a flush. So like the significance of having a club in our hand is not that significant because we don't, we'd want to be able to block his very easy calls on the river. And I just don't think that he checks back this river with many flushes. Sorry, checks back the turn with many flushes. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of great ideas, guys. They're very, very creative. I mean, the funny thing is, like, this spot, in terms of, like, the GTO solution here, we should have a pretty close decision between bet and check call, and they should both have pretty high EV. Although, sadly, in the real world, neither has very high EV, because, as you all said, like, he doesn't really have any strong hands that bet and then check turn. And he also doesn't have many hands that can really call a bet from us that are worse than our hand. And then when he ends up betting the river, he kind of really doesn't have many bluffs either. He's
I'm on a call.
Lisa,
Sorry.
for fuck's sake, he's on a call.
Lisa.
Lisa, we've got the boots here.
Sorry, I think my 3-year-old just smashed my MacBook, but it's fine.
Sorry, Jack.
Run bad. Good job you run deep in this tournament, Doobie, to be able to buy another one.
Welcome to Top Reg Life.
So, sorry, Jack. So you were saying, so when he does bet, it's very rare that he has a bluff.
I mean, the thing is, I think check call is. I mean, okay. I think both of the options of check call and bet are fine. I think they're like. I just don't think you're making a lot of money with either of those lines in this spot because of the way people play. I think you're still making money. Obviously, you have second pair on a board where against a weak range, right? Like, this is great. But like normally when they bet this river, they just have like 9s or 10s or a bet at 8, right? That just like goes for the bet check bet for the value. I mean, when they have a bluff on the turn, they normally bet it on the turn. And,
Yeah.
It's like they get to the river and they kind of have a really bad bluff, because as we all know, they have a weak range. So I actually really like the idea of check raising. I think having a club is just whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. Like, your opponent doesn't really have any flushes anyway. The only reason to have a club is that they might hero you when they have a club, right? For the same, random, I has club, therefore reasoning,
Yeah.
Like, they think that like having the 9 of clubs means that like they can somehow like call infinitely wide against a strong range or whatever. I mean, the fact that you don't rep much is like a little bit of a concern, but I think you could feasibly check raise a 6 here, which means you have tons of combos of value hands, and you could for sure check raise a flush. Take this line with a flush, check call flop, check turn, and then decide that you're going to try and induce something on the river, and check raise it. I mean, I think the value of this goes down a bit if you have had an aggro history with this dude, and you've sort of been battling a bit. Like, here's going to be more likely to station you. But at the same time, he's just not going to be able to call you down here if he has 10s and bets and you check raise. It's just such a credible line. I also kind of like the idea of bet calling. That's kind of fun, but I haven't really thought that one through too much, so I don't know if it's any good or not.